Hello, hello.
Zaczynamy powoli. Okay, now we're online. Hi,
Mm-hmm.
sorry for delay. And okay, uh, as we had technical problems, now we can start. I'm here together with Pavel. Pavel is our lead uh, writer and game developer.
Hello. Hi.
So today we're going to talk about our first project, Starless Vagabonds. So what kind of game it is? It's a text-based RPG. So Pavel, as a main writer, maybe you can say something how you get the ideas come from for all this script you wrote.
Ideas for the script? I'm not sure. It's a tongue. First of all, it's a role-playing game, not RPG. RPG is I think, kind of a weapon. So we are talking about a game. So I don't know. The ideas for the game were basically set between Mateusz, who is a producer, and Łukasz, who is a main programmer. We had a few basic ideas that we wanted the game to be. Um, they wanted to have a text adventure that we were going to explore the space, and the player character has casual motivation to do so. So he wants to gain money and explore ships or different objects he's gonna find. And it started growing up, okay, growing in different directions. We had to create background for the entire history. Then we had to, well, I had to world build the entire space and the world, and then the conflicts started to appear when I had the initial idea. Um, we had few at the start. We first juggled the genre because it's a science fiction game, but there can be a different kinds of science fiction games. We thought about more serious, more politically um, driven kind of expanse, something like that, that would take place in, well, in our solar system, right? But that was problematic because you have to concentrate more on characters and their motivations, and because the main drive there is political agenda, so that did not fit well the casual kind of exploration. I had the second idea was more of a Star Wars movie, uh, the space opera, that the action would take place somewhere in the far future, somewhere far beyond, where there's a constant war between different aliens, and our race is there as humanity, but forgot how to get back to Earth. And we are just mercenaries who fly around, explore the space. But that guys did not want the space opera. So the third option was to create something in between, more light-hearted, but also mm, more realistic than space opera, something like Firefly or lighter science fiction TV series or books that we can encounter. And that's how I came up with Graveyard's idea that humanity is slowly spreading, and they arrived there and they have something to explore. So there is enough of a background and characters to interact with, but there is an area to freely explore and um, to engage, and slowly you got all the characters that are building. You ask yourself um, what the graveyard is, how it fits. I was watching Deadwood like 2 years earlier, and it reminded me of it because it was gold rush in America. This is the setup of the TV series. Well, it's a western, and everyone arrives there hoping to find a gold nugget or the whole gold vein. And everyone is, of course, crooked. Everyone tries to get as much money as they can as soon as possible. So to answer where are my ideas coming from, I am stealing them from other sources. And then
That's to build the entire
repurpose it.
universe.
Yeah, slowly,
That's
slowly.
quite an accomplishment.
The,
And
I
how
hope so.
many years did it took to you to write all of this?
4
It
years?
wasn't a week of writing. It was years, I think.
No,
No?
4 years. But
Years.
the main bulk of the game I wrote in 2 years, I think.
Years.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And now we are more. I'm adding stuff and translating and keeping this and that and adding slowly, right? And the written form changed. I had to work with editor and make everything to work, right? But yeah, it's 4 years, I think, right now.
By the time. So you mentioned the graveyard, and the graveyard is a bunch of stuff from the entire universe. Yes, it's that space, the no living souls.
Yes, I think there are no living souls. That's my idea. I think that nothing there that remains there is alive, actually, but we can work around it. It's not that important. Yeah, but that's another idea. Of course, it's a Bermuda Triangle, right? But if we have space, we're gonna go everywhere. But I did also a lot of thinking about the space like a sea and the sea explorers, right? Because we are going to uncharted areas, we're gonna be encountering the same stuff like that, and we're gonna find some strange places and people, of course. If people who are not a scientist arrive there, they will think about any mythology about it. Okay, they will create myths or rumors that, oh my god, there are some wrecks, so this must be some kind of triangle, cursed space, probably, or something like that. So this is also like that. It's like a Bermuda Triangle of space. Of course, it has some. I think I have an idea what it is, but it's not important. It probably won't come up in the game. Everyone will ask what it is. No one will know. Everyone will have his own answer or answer that someone else gave him, but no one will know for sure.
But you had to make a lot of backgrounds because science fiction is about science, especially. So You have to do large research for
Well, no, it's not
years.
a research. I like just reading a lot. Well, like reading
Stuff.
physical about theoretical physics and popular science. Okay, books different, and they deal with the concepts that are straight out of the science fiction. There's almost every major science fiction book was based actually on science, right? Like Stanislav Lem or Julius Verne, they all contacted people who knew science and they took those ideas and they thought about what they will be in the future. So this is the same. The same idea applies here. Okay, I read a lot of Michio Kaku or other guys who deal with predicting what the future will bring, and that's where I decided what technology will be there and what will not be present in this world. But I recently I like going to the gym recently and listen to podcasts and on writing excuses. They gave a perfect description of it. And what I have to do is I have to describe the island, describe the sea around the island, and affirm the reader that there is island beneath the sea, but he will never see it. And all I have to do is that when someone goes to look into the sea, we say, yeah, there is something out there. But it's there's nothing there. It's a sketch. I don't have to have everything prepared in advance. I have to create an illusion that I have that thought out. Especially that our game in a perspective, because it's a text game. Okay, the text game are are relics of computer age. Okay, and because of this, we have a wild idea that our game has actually already a part of semi-open world. Okay, so the player will have freedom to explore the space just wherever he wants to go. While we are not having it fully implemented, we have the basics done, and so I cannot have everything prepared for it, because as far as we're going to be creating the open world, there has to be rules, but I cannot have everything prepared, especially that we will create a lot of instances or places, and some of them will be randomly generated. This will be quite impossible to create a strict world building and to sketch everything out beforehand to work out, because we want to have it open not only for us but also for other people, because we want to give an editor to people and they will be creating their own maybe stories. So the open world in our concept does not allow like having everything thought out beforehand.
So we have a graveyard, which is a verge of Milky Way of our solar system, and our main character, the player, we can choose the gender, the origin, and it can be Earth or Jovian, yes?
Yes.
Yes. So depends on what we choose. Our character will have other other possibilities, other skills, but the only thing in common is the stimulant. What is exactly the stimulant, and where the idea of it came from?
Stimulant. That was the idea I had for a character, because we need a character. Whatever the choices the player will make, we have to make him competent in some way. Okay? He has to be able to do physical stuff that perhaps player choices would not allow him to. Like, why would he be engaged in a combat or doing stuff that requires acrobatics or any other thing when he's, for example, a reporter or a technician? Okay, and so the idea of stimulant became like, okay, what can I do to give a player something to work with, but I did not create it into a mechanics. So he has an implant, it's a bio implant, I think, that enhances his ability to perceive the surroundings and to react faster and to be more aggressive or well physically apt if the need arrives. But he it's not in a mechanical way. It's more of a narrative tool that I'm using. It has some other meanings. And how did I thought it out? I don't know. I thought it out. I wanted to have him some implant, something from the future. Well, but I did not want to give a player some cybernetics without him deciding about it. And our translator made fun of that, but he probably was right in some way, because one of our writers also used this tool. He had something cipher or something like that. It was called in Lord of the Ice Garden. I think that was the book. Jarosław Grzędowicz thought this idea. I didn't remember it exactly, but when the translator reminded me about it, I think that's where I stole this kind of idea. But of course, the original, the cipher or something like that, was more advanced than the thing that the player has. The player has something that is faulty and it's not quite safe, and it's not fully mastered by him or most of the people who would have it.
Okay, so we have a universe, we have our main character, we have NPCs. So if we choose a gender of our character, they automatically choose the gender of our NPCs. Yes. If we choose a boy, we have a girl. So if we choose a girl, we have a boys. And there's Nina Rockwell and Kim Woo, or Sam Yeager and Mac White. And we have to interact with them. We build entire relationships with them. They can like us, they can dislike us, they can hate us, they can help us or not. And how we need to choose to make this right. The connection with NPCs helps us or not exactly.
I didn't understand.
It's irrelevant.
Irrelevant? What? What is irrelevant? No. I'm trying to create that everything in our game is irrelevant for something. That's the thing number one about the game, that is concentrated on choice. That it will be relevant. How do we build our relationship? We can we can actually, I think, a mid-building relationship with our NPCs if we try very hard. Well, not hard. If we are not interested in the world or something, we can skip a lot of building interaction because it's the player choice. I'm trying to create as much freedom in everything. Why are you playing with camera? That's
I'm
the
sorry.
question.
I got a problem with power source.
Yeah. Now
Yep.
you're sideways.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, but I had to. It would be no camera at all. Yeah,
So how do you expect me to answer your questions if you are now sideways?
I'm listening to you. I just needed a 1 second for me. 1 second, please.
Yeah, the
It
distractions.
was on purpose.
Yeah, well, generally speaking, the both NPCs are trying to get into player's way and to help him and to be a motor of the early stages of the game, because they have a purpose ahead of them, and the purpose is that they will show the player what are the basic ropes around him. Okay, and we have to figure out, like, they are the opposites. Both characters are different. They have like same, some base cores are the same, but of course they are different in their specifics, and we have to walk around them and to learn about how to engage them. They will be either helping or obstructing our character. It's another element of the, what we are trying, what I trying to change in text-based games. The text-based game is weird. It's either choose your own adventure, like one path, and you can divert in some ways and sometimes make some choices, but in an open world you don't have an ending. And in many games about the choice, it's the ending that is important. And here you have, like in most of the modern RPGs, you're building relations because that is something that's gonna last and will inadvertently affect our character in the future. Okay, those relations that I created and affecting them is most of the time is not a short term investment. I created them for longer terms, but it works. Okay, it's not that complicated. You are building a relation. You are undermining the relation, and it constantly changes. But I try to do it in not manic way. Like the NPCs will not at an instant change the attitude again around the character. Like, you say 2 words and he's suddenly offended and he will not react to anything that the player will do. So I tried to avoid dramatic changes in the mood.
So, besides our companions during the adventures, we have our main villain, Adrian McManus. And I remember we were talking some time ago that I think he's a bad guy. You said, no, I didn't create him as a bad guy, but you can choose to be with him in relations that he is a bad guy or he is a good for you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's general concept. I'm trying not to set things in stone. The action, the places to discover, the when you go somewhere, those will be, some of them will be set in stone, some of them will be different, but the characters, it depends on how you trying to approach them, and they will change accordingly to how you treat them and how you interact with them. Are you going along with them or not? Our character is quite like I said, because he has the ability to be physical or impulsive and has some skills, so he does a lot of different things. He can oppose someone, he will be joking and making other stuff.
Yes, but the very beginning of the game shows us that he's actually a bad guy because the player blows him up at the end.
Uh,
If he was a good guy, he wouldn't blow him up.
maybe, I don't know. No, it's I
That's the first
think that
impression.
I'm trying. Well, first of all, just because he's gonna be blown up, it doesn't mean that our player did that. Exactly because of him. But I'm trying I'm trying, of course, to cause that the player will hate our McManus, but I do not think that he has to be the villain.
Yeah, the first scene the player is enjoying the
The,
view of traveler growing up.
the idea is that the player can be a scoundrel, of course. The player can be of the level that McManus is, and
Yeah,
in the
but
end, he can want exactly the same thing as McManus, and he is in his way. So there are different reasons for getting rid of this character. This character in this chapter 1 that we have already the deployed on Google Play is not, of course, fully shown. He's, I think, in the end mostly. There's a part of the dialogue. Of course, we are first meeting or hearing about him from NPCs, and they cannot be trusted because they have their own idea of what they think about other people. But I hope he will be a villain for character. He has to for the player most of it.
let's talk again about the very beginning of the game. We have a level up, we have some memories, and then the game comes back to the past
Yeah.
when the player was woken up and there was a meeting going on all over the Tarvala. And the reason of the meeting was
Please
McManus.
do not tell the viewers the entirety of the game. Can you just
Yeah,
contain yourself? Yes, there's a ship. What about it?
I still think that McManus is a bad guy.
No, don't get me wrong. What is the bad guy? Okay, if we're
No,
talking about
that's
the
common.
creating, yeah, but if we are talking about creating a story, for example, like in development, McManus is not a villain. He can be a different type, but most of all, his character's antagonist. He's someone who blocks the character, the player, from achieving his goal. Okay, we have a character. He wants to have two things: freedom and money. It's as simple as that. Simple, basic need. In the space, he wanted to explore. He wanted freedom. He wanted money, and McManus stands
This
between
way.
those objects, and this is the sign that he is an antagonist. If he becomes an enemy, that's up to the player. It's not up to me. I'm creating the possibility. He can become an ally. He can become someone who will be trusting in a player. It will depend, of course, on what decision the player will make. That is as simple as it is. Because there is a mutiny, that's because McManus stands in different. Many people came to this to space to explore, because we have the Tarvalar goes into space for a completely different reason that he's currently at, because that's the point. The player is at a different location. Everyone on board of this ship is actually in the wrong location. They should not be there.
So where they should be.
And McManus wants to stop them from escaping and achieving the dream, because he wants Graveyard to be dig, to be searched, to be explored, and everything that will be found should be brought to him. And what the player will do with that, with antagonist, is up to the player, not to me. I will create possibilities for him to achieve this, or something else.
So
there might be other villains.
We have a choice.
Yes.
What villain?
Yes, that's the idea.
So the Tarvalar, the Graveyard wasn't the purpose of the Tarvalar. So exploring the universe is the basic idea of the entire game.
Yes.
And as I can say, as I understood, it was the purpose of Tarvalar as well, exploring, not gaining money. And the Tarvalar was like an arc ship, or something like that.
It's an archetype ship, but it wasn't an arc. I think that I gave this explanation. No, the Tarvalar is a ship that goes into solar system and scouts for resources and sets up the entire structure for people to move in, to mine those resources or to settle on the planet, and then he gathers up the crew and he moves along. So they are going to one place, and then that was the idea. They go into hibernation, and they start flying to another solar system, slowly as hell, but it doesn't matter, because in our universe we don't have faster than light speed. We have only slower speeds that allow us to reach stars. So this is the only way that humanity can spread slowly, like building colonies. And this is something that's Tarvalar was supposed to do that. So it's a big ship that was equipped with a lot of constructing, mining, and different equipment, and all of this was repurposed to explore the graveyard. And that's the idea for the world that I had, because everyone who gets there arrives there on a spaceship. Okay, the graveyard does not have a solar system nowhere near, and even if he had, it would be pointless, because it would be too far away. So they have to hover at the very border of this void, and to use all the resources that they have at their disposition. So there is a destination Tantalus that was a floating, flying for space, of course, space yard, right? And there is a flying temple, and there's a flying something, you know. All those ships were directed there only for those purposes, and they have different people on board, and they have different equipment, so their destination is different. And if the player will, in the future, of course, we don't have everything, but in the future, if he will arrive into those places, they will be totally different than the Tarbala.
And they have different origins. One of them sent by corporations, some of by federation. And everyone wants to explore and gain something, gain money, gain research stuff.
Yes, Gold Rush, I told you.
Yeah, like you thought. And okay, so we have a traveler, we have a mutiny, we have NPCs, we have our main villain, and in the middle of this, our player is making choices, lots of choices. Every click of a button is a kind of choice. You can go there, go here. You can. We have a lot of tests that improves your skills. So the game is very complicated. That's true, because it's not a typical text-based game. It's more than that, I think.
No,
It's
of course
more interaction.
we try to, well, our text game is not exactly, like I said, it's not a choice, no, choose your own adventure game, right? It's not as simple as that. It's not exactly interactive novel, because it is not written like a novel. I tried that. I think, again, our first translator was the one who slapped me around, saying that cannot be written like this because it reads like crap. I tried to impose a past tense and a third person, the most common for books, but it doesn't work. And so I had to use the most common for choose your own adventure. That's a second person perspective and a present tense. But the choices are, for most parts, are created in a way that.
I have to interrupt you because we have a question.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so maybe we can answer that. So the question is, hi, how hard is it to write up all the different paths in game? Doing X or Y or Z and other actions along the chosen path. So, Pavel, is it hard?
It's not hard. It's very time consuming. That's the different. That's the main problem with creating too much choice, and it's always is. It's a mathematical formula. If you imagine that you start with a tree of three choices, and you give at the end of each of these choices another two, then you end up with 6, and you have to come out with different outcomes for it, and you have to decide what kind of severity of those choices, how impactful they will be. As long as it is, for example, building relations or creating a different, smaller impacts, I can do this by switching simple different description and affecting the relation. I inform the player by stating that something has changed, that the status of his reputation, his relation has changed, and the dialogue differs slightly. But sometimes you make bigger choices and you start by doing them very early, and they lead on to a bigger turn at the end, of course. The main problem with creating a different, apart from time, different choices is to remember about them, to not forget them, to implement them, the resolution at some point of this of the story. Okay, you can cheat out of some ways of some decisions by using the story, because the choices the player will make will be a foreshadowing for the events that will happen. So, for example, if he's gonna decide that he likes Nina, I have to remember about it. And he has to do this once, do this two. Sometimes Nina will irritate player or will be irritated by player. The relation has to change. And then at the end of our chapter 2, this makes a difference, and this makes a big difference actually. And the choices the player makes are the serve the purpose of foreshadowing of what will happen. So the difficulty is most of the time, the most problematic thing is to have time to write a different outcome for every choice. And if it is implemented, then you need to figure out how to make the choice always have some impact on the story or the character. The choice always has to change something. If you do not implement it, it's a problem. I think in Fallout 4, I think, yeah, Fallout 4 was quite infamous about it, because every choice that you made always led to the same outcome. You have to create outcomes, and it doesn't have to be at the exact moment, because we are not again in a typical role-playing game. We do not have to rely on the moment, because we are creating a kind of a story, right? There is a second question, I see.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for characters introduced in the game? I don't know. They
It's
do
like
not
question
have.
from Mateusz.
Okay, McManus has an inspiration. Okay, McManus. I love the character from Borderlands 2, and he's a villain though. And McManus is partially such a character. It's Jack. How Jack was called? Oh my God, I forgot. Right, I forgot how it's called. Handsome Jack.
Remember too
Handsome
much
Jack.
stuff.
Handsome Jack is one of the best villain players, best villain characters written. I love him. He's masterfully written, and I really like how he is. And yeah, when I started thinking about McManus, I started thinking about this character. But this guy, our guy, is more serious. And the second inspiration is my fellow player in role-playing games. He if he would be in a role-playing game the boss of this ship, he will be most definitely acting in the same way. So I think uh, I'm basing this on how my friend portrays sometimes characters in role playing. So this is the merge of those two characters. But others like Nina, Kim, and others are not based on anything. I mean, nope. I
Because
created them just from the scratch. I think they have some purpose. They have some meaning for me, and I set those roles early on, and then I thought what characteristics they need to have to fulfill their role in the story. Okay, so they are created from the start, just because I think they are not inspired by anything. Their graphics, of course, they are, but they are the when I describe them to graphic, the girls who did the graphics, I used different actors that were inspiration for those characters. But the look, how they looked, was very late, introduced very late actually. I did not I didn't know how they look like year two. I think the first concepts came, and the concepts were created. Now the girl is now working in CD Project Red, I think. So she will be creating probably concepts of characters for the next Witcher, I think, or maybe Cyberpunk DLCs. I don't know.
so, but besides NPCs, besides our villain and player, we have also AIs. And
Wait, because there's another question. Questions. People interact with us, I think.
good, good.
I'm not sure if they are real. Those might
I
be
hope so.
bots.
Maybe it's an AI.
Do I
Terminator.
like to draw a graph with all that, or you just go with it? I'm partially I'm going with it. The partially I'm going with it. Not fully because we don't have our engine is created like a graph, so the graphs are created while I create those choices. But there is different. I don't know. Our game exactly is not as like any other one would. Others would require a lot of planning and to have exactly everything in its place, because we would have to cooperate between the different divisions, like creating graphics, like creating voiceovers, like creating everything. We would have to produce many of the planning beforehand. But with a text adventure, this is different. I can go with it remembering that this decision has to conclude somewhere, and to choose the moment that it will be best used for it to appear. You know, that's my answer to this. I don't have to create everything. I need to remember that this thing needs to have an outcome. That's the most important thing. And I hope I did about every choice that was made. I have one that is murky. Uh, I introduced it, and I am not feeling 100% sure it will crystallize at some point. It's choices about the voice of the character. Is he ironic or is he serious? I'm not entirely sure how to go with it. Is it only a quirk, and will the only the character responses will be differentiated in later on, or will it have basic game outcome? I try to do this and this, and I'm not sure how if this will not create too many outcomes in the future.
So I have another question, but it is from me. Why did you give to AI's character?
Because, what? Again?
Why the AI's has its own character, has its will, I think, because we can see it on the example of Janus, the first AI that we interact with. He's mean, the player. He's not nice. He's not
every time you have ships,
right.
AI, and ships and AI, they usually don't have personality, and if they do, they may be some kind of funny in a way, but then they don't do anything. And since I don't have any robots and I don't have anything else, I decided that the AI will be the perfect for it. To be mean and to oppose and to do bad things to the player, because yes, ship's AI doesn't have to be nice to you just because you are the captain or something like that. It doesn't give a damn. And the second thing is that if in case that the player wants to I don't know, not give a crap about any NPC in the game, he will not end up in the space unable to talk to anyone, because I need a character to interact with something to describe the world that is around him. Without the voice, it's in one of the famous, again, science fiction novels, when the main hero is traveling through a wasteland and he doesn't have anyone to talk to, but he has a dog, so he talks to the dog, because you need to have a dialogue to something. So I needed a character again, and that will respond to player.
So you gave the voice to the AI.
Yes, and early on, he was not that mean, because now he actually does not like the player, never likes him. And at the beginning, I just wanted him to be present, but I've changed it along the way, because I needed a character who is, because at the beginning I tried to be too serious in the game. Now the early drafts, the early versions were too serious. Everyone had I don't know, the stick in their butt, and everyone was talking like everyone else. They didn't have any differentiation. And I needed to start to induce some humor to the dialogues and to situations, and mean AI is perfect for it. And then it's that when I decided what to do about character dying, it all fell into place. We probably should explain what is happening when you die, but I will not. You need to go to download the game and check it out for yourself, if there is anyone who is watching us, of course. 9 people. And one of them is my son, probably. He's 8 years. He wanted to see us. But I think we are at the end of a time. I know we had problems at the beginning, but it's like 2020.
Yep. So next time we meet, I think next week, Sam. And we talk about our main tool, the editor, yes. It's a base of our entire game. So it's very important to introduce it to our listeners because it will become our product as well.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see you, and see you next time.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye.